For the first time in many, many years, the Golden State Warriors will look a lot different. We've become so accustomed to this dynasty run of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala. Kevin Durant was there obviously for a little bit of time. And now it's different. Now we're down to Steph and Draymond. But the thing is that I think when I look at the Golden State Warriors, they improved this offseason. If I were to compare last year's roster to today's roster, I'm going to take today's roster over last year's roster. Now, I understand on paper. Of course, it would have been great to have Klay Thompson finish out his career in Golden State. But sometimes it's best to move on. Guys that are superstar players or star players in Klay Thompson's case, it's tough. When age starts to catch up to you, when injuries start to catch up to you, and you start to fall behind a little bit, and you still have the mentality of being a star, but you can't fill that role, and especially when you're still at your home base, it's tough to embrace a new role. I think that's the situation the Golden State Warriors were in. And so getting him to move on, go to Dallas and see whatever he does out there, but start a new page. Flip the page, start a new chapter in Golden State Warriors basketball was the right move for this team to make. I had no problems with that at all. And I think this is a team. Now, listen, I'm not going to say they're the favorites to win the championship. I'm not even going to consider them a legitimate contender. But what I do know is this. I'm not going to bet against Steph Curry. And I think this team could still be a legitimate threat this season in the NBA. And here's what I've got for this roster. Now, the biggest thing I'm going to say right out the gate is that Golden State Warriors are going to have to figure out what exactly this team is going to look like rotational-wise. There's a lot of lineups you can make here. But here's what I'm going to say is my opinion, what I think should happen when I look at this team. The starting lineup should be Steph and Curry, which is I think he's the only guaranteed lock on this team. Him and Draymond Green are the only two guaranteed, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, starters for this season. Steph Curry at the point guard spot, Brandon Podziemski at shooting guard, Wiggins at small forward, Kuminga at power forward, Draymond Green at center. Yes, I recognize that it's probably one of the smallest teams that we've had in the NBA in a very, very long time. However, it's the best option when you talk about fitting overall the depth chart on this team, getting the right rotational minutes, getting guys to play the rotations and the depth pieces you have on the bench. This is what fits the team best. So that's what I like to say right there. We know Steph Curry is one of the premier guys in the NBA. We're not going to debate that. We know Steph Curry is one of the top guys in the entire NBA, one if not the best point guard in the entire NBA as well. Then you look at Brandon Podziemski. He had a good rookie season overall, and I think he's going to take a massive jump this year now that Klay Thompson's out of his way. I like him a lot. Wiggins will have a backup season. Let me take a moment to say about Andrew Wiggins. A lot of people in the world today, when we talk about athletes, we look at their performances and want to grade them as if everything is perfect in their lives. Sometimes for some athletes, if they're not producing in a way for an extended period of time, there's a good chance that something is not happening that's right in their lives off the court. And guess what? We found that out for Andrew Wiggins this year. When this offseason came in, we found the news. Does that not make a lot more sense as to what everything that's been happening on the court for Andrew Wiggins has looked like in the past year or two? And when I see this team now, it might take adjusting for Andrew Wiggins. But I think people were a little too harsh on Andrew Wiggins, especially when we now recognize and realize these circumstances that were going on in his life off the court. Basketball is just a sport. Life off the court is a lot more important. And he took that priority and was emphasized a lot more time being with his family in this tough times that he had to deal with. That's now essentially, obviously it's not over with, but he's able to move on and turn the chapter. It's now a new part of his life. And I think a lot of people that have been bashing Andrew Wiggins over the past couple of seasons since his All-Star year was so great are going to come back and realize that he is still that guy. I think Andrew Wiggins is going to have a great season for this team this year. I might be wrong here, but I have a lot of faith that Andrew Wiggins is going to have a bounce back season this year. Remember, he was an All-Star a couple of years ago before everything went sideways off the court for him. Andrew Wiggins is going to be a starting small forward for this team. I think he's going to excel this year. Jonathan Kuminga. It's time for him to take that massive jump. Listen, last year was a nice jump. I think this year is the year that we're going to see Kuminga take a massive jump. He has all the potential in the world to be a legitimate, high level starting player. Not sure I'm willing to say all-star yet. High level starting player. And then Draymond at center. Listen, this is going to get interesting. He is one of the premier defensive players in the NBA still, in my opinion. But him running center is going to be a little bit questionable. That's why I said this. The whole first part of the season for the Warriors has to be just understanding what this rotation is going to look like, because there's a lot of question marks here. It might be a little bit ugly for the first couple of weeks of the season. They got to figure out the rotation. But I think Draymond works best for this team. I think this lineup I just said it works best for the Warriors. Let's go to the backup unit. The biggest piece I'm going to say off this bench right now is Trayce Jackson-Davis, simply because he's a center and they're going to need a center. If the Draymond situation does not work out well, you're going to shift Trayce Jackson-Davis to starting center, Draymond up to power forward, coming in a small forward, Wiggins a shooting guard most likely. That's how I think the roster would look like. Steph obviously at point guard. So Trayce Jackson-Davis should be huge because he's going to have to get a lot of minutes, being the only other center that they're going to probably utilize. Kevon Looney also is a guy who we're going to see. He's third unit right now. He's obviously starting to get to a point in his career where he's past his prime. So I don't know how many minutes he's going to have, but he's still a key piece of that locker room. He's critical. He's going to be a part of this roster now. Up to the power forward spot, Kyle Anderson was a huge pickup for this team. One of the more underrated guys in the league. I know it's fun to make fun of slow-mo and so on and so forth. What he brings to a team, his intangibles, is high-level basketball. He's going to be a guy that can fill this rotational role. Great for the Warriors. Adds great depth. He's a great bench piece. Love that addition for the Golden State Warriors. Very underrated pickup for them, actually. Then you have Guy Santos. I think he's going to be the guy that makes the roster. It's going to be a battle the next couple of days. Guy Santos, Kyle Anderson, seeing which one of those, or Guy Anderson, or Guy Santos, or Kevin Knox. I think Guy Santos will get that spot. He's going to be the third string power forward, in my opinion. Let's go to the small forward spot. Moses Moody. Give him a lot more minutes this season. He's ready to produce. He's ready to play. This is the year that we're going to see Kuminga and Moody take bigger jumps, and I think it's going to be great for him to see that happen. Lindy Waters is going to be the guy as a third unit there. Solid overall play. Not going to see a lot of minutes this year, though. Then we go up to Buddy Hield as the backup shooting guard for Podziemski. I think if we can make him be the sixth man for this roster, it would be huge for this team. You know, Golden State Warriors, when you look back to their championship dynasty run, not only did they have an elite starting five, but their bench was deep as well. You see, we always forget that because the bench players don't, for the general fans, the bench players don't stick in people's minds that often. Steph Curry sticks in your mind. Draymond, Clay, Kevin Durant, those guys stick in your mind. But we forget the guys on that bench. We forget how Andre Iguodala was a sixth man for most of the season. We forget Sean Livingston and how big he was during those runs for the Golden State Warriors. We forget about guys like David West, who contributed massively on a couple of those runs for that team. We talk about some of these other guys that were a part of those Golden State Warrior bench teams, Mo Spates, so on and so forth. Those guys are critical to success. You need depth in the NBA to win championships. And that's what the Golden State Warriors did, which is why I'm so high in this offseason for them. And Buddy Hield, if you allow him to be that sixth man, where you say, hey, buddy, guess what? This is your unit. You're going to be the leading scorer off the bench. You're going to shoot what you want to shoot. You're going to get minutes for the starting lineup and maybe even close some games out for us. But you control the pace. You control the second unit. It's going to be perfect for the Golden State Warriors. Buddy Hield was a very underrated pickup. He's obviously had an up and down career at certain points. It didn't necessarily work out for the 76ers, but remember the postseason when he got in, finally got some minutes in the postseason, how he excelled in that series. I think we're going to see a lot more success because this offense in Golden State, where they know how to utilize shooters, but he should thrive in this team this year. Then we go up to the backup point guard spots. D'Anthony Melton, Gary Payton will be kind of contributing and battling out for that point guard spot. Melton should be the guy that gets the favorite right now. Gary Payton looks like he's a little bit past his prime as well. Could still get some spot minutes here and there. Would not be shocked if he's even off the team by the end of the year, though, because like I said, he's just kind of getting past his prime. But he's a good culture guy. He's the guy that's really well liked in that locker room. So nothing against him being on the team. That's what I got for you guys in terms of the overall guys on guaranteed contracts right now. But then you have two-way deals. Quinn Post, the draft pick from this year. Pat Spencer as well as a new guy. And then Reese Beekman. I think it's a solid two-way guys. Not sure any of the guys will ever be on standard guys contracts, but still solid overall two-way spots for the Golden State Warriors. Then let's head over to what I said was a battle. You have Kevin Knox, who was brought in. It's essentially going to be a battle of Guy Santos versus Kevin Knox. I said this a few moments ago. You could have them both on roster if you want to go 15 guys. Golden State Warriors typically don't do that. I don't think they will do that because of the salary cap issues right there, and it doesn't make sense. Neither one's going to be that critical to the team. But what I think you need to do is I think Guy Santos works out. He's a part of the locker room already. He's well-liked in that locker room. He's a younger player. He's been a guy that's been able to develop a little bit and play his role, and we saw him thrive when he actually had the opportunity to play. Kevin Knox hasn't found his opportunity to be the role player in his league. He came in as a guy who was a high prospect, a guy who's supposed to be a great player. He's never really settled into a role. I don't know what he brings in terms of say, hey, go rebound the ball for us like you can go say for Guy Santos. I'm not sure about that. So in terms of playing a rotational role, already having the chemistry, Guy Santos should win that battle right there. I also like Blake Hinson. I would not be shocked if we see him on a two-way deal either with the Warriors or another team in the near future. So as I said, for the Golden State Warriors this season, no, it's not the prime dynasty run where we're going in the season saying, hey, they're the favorites to win the championship. I personally won't even consider them legitimate contenders. And that's in large part due to how deep the NBA is in the Western Conference, how much talent there is, and just the uncertainty. Listen, The Warriors have talent. I just praise the depth on this team. The starting five also is talented. I think guys like Andrew Wiggins will have big bounce back seasons. I think Pajemski would take a massive jump. Kuminga would take a big jump. Moody would take a big jump. But that's a lot of I think, not certain. And for me, in the way I judge and look at teams, I have to go by certainty. I could hypothetically hype any player in the NBA, but I go by facts. And I think this team could be better than what I'm proclaiming them to be right this moment as I speak to you. But what I know by facts is that, listen, I'm looking at this team, and I can't say that they're a legitimate contender this year. They're a playoff team, yes. Contender, no. However, they have Steph and Curry on their team. I'm not ruling nothing out if you have Steph Curry on your roster. Draymond Green knows how to win some championships. I'm not ruling this team out from anything. Who am I to say that Steph Curry can't win an NBA championship? That would be quite foolish of myself to say that and make that statement. So I'm not going to do that today. But I don't view them as a legitimate contender. However, I'm not going to say they can't do it because of those aspects there. So the Golden State Warriors should have a good season overall this year. I think they're a better team than they were last year. And I think fans should be excited to see what this team has because they certainly do have potential. And it's going to be determined of how high that potential is and how close to that potential they reach because they have a lot of guys that can take big jumps this year.